Hello and welcome to Self Power Now, where empowering women share their stories and advice about life, work, happiness, love, and success. I'm your host, Debbie Giussoni, and I'm so glad you're here with us today. So sit back and enjoy the show. Today, we're talking to Leslie Laredo, president of Academy of Digital Media, a training and consulting company. Leslie started her company when she was a single mom. For all you single moms out there, she met her current husband 26 years ago. After a couple of years, their relationship went from dating and informal business advising to marriage and formal business partnering. Last year, they celebrated their 20th wedding anniversary. So I guess it all worked out okay. And they're still working together through many personal and business challenges over the years, including surviving breast cancer for Leslie, the 2008 market crash, and of course, COVID. Welcome, Leslie. Great to have you here.
Oh, thank you, Debbie. Wonderful to be with you. I'm looking forward to this.
Yes, I couldn't wait to talk to you. You have a lot to celebrate in both your personal and professional life. And, we never know how all the pieces of our life are ever going to fit together like 5 years later or 10 years later, or what's in store, which I always say is like the beauty and the excitement of it all. Do you ever look back at your life and say, or ask yourself, how the hell did all that come together so perfectly from, being a single mom to, I'm sure that was, very challenging, to what you've established today and the kind of lifestyle you have today?
Oh, absolutely. I look back many times. I actually also look back and go, there are a lot of, paths in the road, and I made the left turn, not the right. And what would have happened if I had made the other turn, or what would have gone on? So I do a lot of reflection on that. And this definitely wasn't what I had thought I would be doing with my life. So I've,
It never is. Yeah. It's never what we think. And I love the fact that you said the path, because we are, during the course of our lives, we're given a lot of choices, right? We just have to be open to them, right? And say, do I want to choose A or B? And I always believe, like, you can't say, well, what if I didn't do this, or what if I did that? The fact is you did exactly what you were supposed to be doing. Oh, and there goes an ambulance right in front of my house. So, well, we're gonna keep that in because we're real people doing real things, and we're both working out of our houses.
Right.
That was a quick little interruption that we didn't plan on, but it speaks to life in that we just don't know what those opportunities are. But as you said, you took one path versus another, right?
Yeah. So just getting into having my own business, I had worked in the online world. We didn't call it digital back in the early days. It was online, then it became internet. And I got divorced and moved to Boston and worked for a large publishing company, Ziff Davis. Had a great time there, but they sold their online division off to AT&T. And I realized I didn't like working for the big companies. So I thought I would start a business. Actually, this is my second business. I started another business before, and I had partnered with a couple clients of mine. And I remember going to my parents and saying, okay, I'm going to start a business. And I thought I was crazy. They said, you're a single mom, you have a great job. And my dad was a corporate exec. So he, AT&T, great big company.
Right. Well, that's so funny you mentioned AT&T and Ziff Davis. I worked for both those companies as well. So, and I remember when I was leaving AT&T, I was selling computers for them at the time. And my father said, why would you ever leave? This is your, they thought this was your job for life, right?
That was my dad spent 36 years at IBM.
Yes.
So for me to like have this great, big corp company job.
Yeah.
So I said, well, if it doesn't work out, I'll move home. And they looked at me and goes, no, you're not. They're like, my dad had just retired. They're like, we're going to travel. We're not being your babysitter or taking care of, like I said, okay, I guess I'll have to make it work. And that was my reaction. And I was young and just, full of ideas. And 25 years ago when I started the business, the
Yeah.
concept of women starting businesses didn't,
Yes.
we were like, what are you doing? Like,
But
why
there
would
had
you
to
do
be
that?
something inside of you, even though everybody around you said, oh, you're crazy to do this. You're crazy to give up the stability. There had to be something inside your spirit or your
Yeah.
soul where you knew that was the right
Yeah.
decision for you.
Yeah. That's true. And
Yeah.
I can't tell you, there was the light bulb that went off that was like this clarity. It was more of an evolution because as
Yeah.
I was unhappy that I could do it better. I kept thinking I could do it different, better.
Yeah.
I believed
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
myself,
Mhm.
and I'll be honest, if I had known how hard it was going to be, I probably would not have done it. So I was
Yes.
naive. I
Yes.
was very naive about how hard, even though it was hard, I still loved it. But when I look back,
Yeah.
I go, oh my
Yeah.
God.
What you don't know works to your advantage, right?
Yeah. Oh,
Well, a lot of people
totally.
say that about child raising.
Yeah, no, it's so true. So I give myself credit for not doing too much homework to figure out what it takes to start a business,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just doing it, and not having a lot. I didn't have a lot of support, so it was really, it was on me to do it,
Right.
and then
Well, you know what I call that? Not, it's not that you weren't prepared, it's that you didn't overthink it, right? Because I think when we get into this mode of overthinking, we get into that what is it called? Paralysis by
my
analysis or
analysis.
analysis by paralysis, whatever, where we just stop and we can't take that step forward. Whereas sometimes you just have to make the leap and say, okay, I'm going to do it. There's no wrong decisions in life, and you could always change later on. It's not like you're performing, brain surgery on someone and you're deciding where to
Yeah.
put that scalpel, right?
Well, and I also think, and I think you get that too, being a salesperson, having a sales
Yes.
heritage. We in sales, every time you pick up the
Yeah.
phone, you don't know what you're going to get on the other end of the phone, right? That's what I
Yeah.
love about sales. So I think
A lot of
having,
trial and error too, and a
yes,
lot of numbers, right? Just try
yeah,
everything. Try
yeah,
everything. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that was part of it. So there was a lot of,
Mm,
the creativity and resilience that you gain from being in sales,
yeah.
played a big role in it, because when things didn't work out, it didn't freak me out. It was like, all right, we'll try something else. We'll make it work. And
Yeah. And that has a
so
lot to do with your attitude, being a positive and looking at, okay, this could work rather than, oh, this isn't going to work.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. But you didn't set out to be in business with your husband. You were in business for quite some time by yourself, right?
yes,
And for
yes.
any, how long was that? How long was that before you kind of joined
Oh,
forces professionally?
um, gosh, 5 years.
Okay. So good
So,
amount where you
yeah.
got your business off the ground.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
started it. I
Yeah.
think I had not even met him yet when I started the business.
Yes.
And I don't now I'm forgetting what was going on, the exact timing, but we were in fact, yeah, but I'd started the business. I had not met him later, because I remember saying to him, ask, because he was the EVP marketing at Reuters, a division of Reuters. And
Uh-huh.
actually, I met him through a common friend, that's a whole other kind of funny story. Met at a trade show, and
We'll
and
do that
I
one when we're talking about how people meet on another
yeah,
podcast.
right, yeah.
But you
So
had a
I
bi-coastal relationship. He was
Yeah.
not, yeah.
Right. So I
Yeah.
met him. I was in Boston. He was in Philly. And my last meeting, conversation with him was like, so do you get to Boston often? And he said, I could. I go, okay, good sense of
That's a
humor,
sign.
like it, right? And then 2 months later, he accepted a job as president of an online gaming company in LA, and he moved to LA. And I'm like, whoa, what about me? I'm here in Boston. He said, well, come to LA. I said, no, I'm not coming to LA. My family's my sister, brother were in Boston. My parents were in New York. I had help my
You were East
immediate
Coaster.
family.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And plus they
Plus
helped
you
me
had
raise.
you had a child. Yeah.
Yeah. And I wanted
Yeah.
my child to know his family, and every weekend was with families. I can't go to LA. So we dated bi-coastally, and he traveled a lot and I
Mhm.
traveled also. So we saw, and his kids were back east. So he was coming east at least once or twice a month to see
Yeah.
his kids.
Yeah.
So we saw each other a lot, and that part. But after 2 years, I said, I'm getting tired of this. And what's the future? And he was actually selling his company to AOL. So he sold his company to AOL, and then was like, what am I going to do? And I said, why don't you come to Boston, hang out with me while you figure it out? You could help me get things going. We were starting to really pick up steam. And so he he moved in with me and started taking over some roles. And all of a sudden it just, kind of blossomed. And
But just sort of happened naturally. Like you didn't really set out to say, hey, come into business with me.
oh, yeah.
And for any listeners who or viewers who are thinking about it, what's like the number one thing to consider before you even consider going into
Yeah.
business with your partner, with your life partner?
Right, right. Well, there was a couple things. One was, did we have enough space, physical and emotional space, that we
Mm,
could talk to each other in a business way and talk to each other in a personal, intimate way. And we've upfront
yeah.
made had to say, look, we had no talking about work at dinner time or at night when we went out, or, we had the kids with us, not around the kids. I mean, we try to really
You set some
create.
rules and
Yeah, we
boundaries.
had the rules
Yeah.
and boundaries. That was really important. That
Yeah.
could we, and when this, could we do that? That was
Yeah.
part of it. Then there was also, what do we do? And he had really strong talent and experience running. He was president of division. He knew
Mhm.
finance. He knew tech. He knew.
He was used to ordering people around, and then he comes into your business, and you're the boss, right? You started the
Yeah,
business. So
right,
how
right.
does how does that happen? And I want to say, even before you get to that point, what I'm thinking of is, if you don't have a good personal relationship, like a really good, solid personal relationship
Um,
with your partner, don't think that business is going to make it better, because if
no,
anything, it's
no.
going to add a lot of complications,
Oh,
right? So before you
oh,
even think about something like that, if your partner approaches you like, why don't we do something together? Think about the personal relationship first, and think
yeah.
about, wow, can you really take this to another level? Because it does add so many layers of more complications in that relationship, right? As you said, you have to even start by talking about boundaries, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
interesting. I think because we dated bi-coastally and we communicate a lot through actually emails. And my husband actually saved a lot of our initial emails, which are kind of funny to
Aw.
read now because they're romantic and cute and all that. But we had time to really develop. We had
Love
2 years.
emails. I love it.
Yeah, love
Love
emails.
emails.
But we had time to develop and learn. I mean, we had 2 years of this, getting to know each other by coast. We saw each other, but most of our communication was via phone or emails. So we
Yeah, there's no
really.
Zoom back then, or
No, no,
FaceTime or anything.
no,
You really had to
no social
listen.
media at
You really
all.
had to listen to people and really
Oh,
make an effort to be present, right? Which
yeah.
is
Oh,
important.
yeah.
Yeah.
We talked a lot. So we got to know each other, and that was really
Mm.
important. And then things would come up when he wasn't officially probably. It was like, how should I do this? And like,
Yeah.
I was, my first big contract, I'll never forget, was in San Francisco, and and he said, I'll fly up and be your advisor. So he actually flew from LA up to San
He just
Francisco.
inserted himself into that
Yeah,
role, and
he
you
said,
were okay
and
with it.
I
Yeah.
was. I said, okay, because they were going to be. It was with a tech company, and there was
Yeah.
lots of things about it that I thought, okay. So he would go in the meeting, and they go like, "Who is this guy?" And he goes, "Well, I'm technically her boyfriend, but I'm actually in this place. I'm her business advisor." And everybody laughed. I mean, it
Nice.
broke,
Nice.
that broke the ice, and everybody.
Yeah.
And it was, what we had to obviously discuss what would be the terms, and he brought a lot to that discussion. We got the deal. And so I thought, okay, I get, he's good at this stuff. He's a good negotiator. And so it worked, but it was, it took time. I mean, and
Yeah.
I do
Yeah.
it, and if you're
Yeah.
going to do it, don't jump into it. Make sure it is right. And I felt it was right. I didn't hesitate at all. In fact,
And you
I
kind of
remember,
eased into it too. You didn't just
yes,
start a business together. You eased into it,
right,
and
right.
you already knew him, and you already knew what his skill sets. What kind of skill sets, like what skill sets did you have that complemented each other, and did you have any that really competed with each other? Because sounds like you both had the really, like front facing roles, marketing and sales, and that
Mhm.
takes a certain kind of personality, I know. And sometimes that kind of personality doesn't gel together, because you both want to be in charge, right?
Right, right. Well, it's so interesting because we had part of that being very purposeful was deciding we wouldn't have, we're talking about space, physical space and workspace, like the
Yes.
mental work. Like, what do you do? What do I do? And don't try to do what I do. And I won't try to do what you do. No, we step on each other's toes. I mean, that happens. And every once in a while we have to remind ourselves that that's your job. This is my job, and let's not overlap. Also, it's a waste of time and energy if we're doing the same thing. So we had to be very purposeful. So I loved creating, being a creator. I love being today, the creator world is, I feel like I was starting that 25 years ago. I loved initially we were a research company. We didn't even do training till we were into it almost 5 years. So we started as a research business and we got into training. That was another one of those light bulb things went off and I saw an opportunity and he helped me with that and totally changed my pricing and gave me, he brought the financial acumen that I didn't have for pricing and things and negotiating and things. So I said, okay, I'll be on the training side, the front end, I'll be the trainer, I'll be the content person. I'll know what we need to do. I stay in touch with the industry. I have a huge network of people. I'm like the face of the company. He's behind the scenes.
He's operations. He does operations.
He's like a CEO, COO, CFO. I mean, he does everything that is not forward facing, client facing, touching content, everything else. He's running it. So thank God, because,
you need that. I think in any business and even in a personal partnership, it's good to have, complementary sets or, even running a household, right? One person is good with the finances and the other person is good with something else. And it works really well that way. Was there ever any tension with, like kind of a reporting situation? I know it's a small company, just the two of you, but in terms of who's telling whom what to do, it was your company initially, he came in. How does that work?
Well, that part wasn't hard because I knew what he brought to the table. I think the hard parts come in. Sometimes our styles are different. I'm more get it done. Get it. I'm more proactive. He tends to be more kind of like not last minute, but it's like
he pushes the envelope.
He pushes the envelope a little bit, and I'm like, no, let's just get it done.
And that gets you anxious and nervous. I know I'm like that too. I like to have things done. I like to be early. I like to have things done in advance. I like to not be rushed. And a lot of people don't work that way.
Yeah.
So
So that's probably that's the real. That's of all the sticky points that gets me, like, oh, let's make sure we don't wait till the last minute or whatever. Let's think this one through. And I'm always that way. So, but I recognize that, and we do too. We always our favorite line is we agree to disagree.
Okay.
And we say that a lot because we'll have different ideas about how things should go, and so. And it depends on, whose sentiment wins, and again, it's every situation is different and we hear each other out. And a lot of times, okay, we'll go with it that your way, or sometimes it's the reverse. So it's situational.
Could you think of a time where it was really, really a difficult decision or turned into more of a disagreement, a little bit more intense? And why?
Yeah, well, the company is the main company that I started was Laredo Group, and we disagreed about using my name in the company name. My name, Leslie Laredo Group. And
now, is Laredo your married name from when you were married, or is it your?
It's my first husband. Yeah, my first husband.
Okay. Oh, okay. So I could see why that might be.
Yeah.
Difficult.
So my second husband didn't like that I kept my first husband, but I was already known in my industry. I mean, I was well established, well known. And people said to me, don't give up Leslie Laredo. It's a great sounding name. And
alliteration.
Alliteration. Right.
I love it.
So that's probably of all the issues. And it's still a little bit of when people call him Mr. Laredo, he goes, I'm not Mr. Laredo.
Yeah. I've always had that with my husband too, because I always kept my maiden name because I was in business and front facing with a lot of the companies I worked for too. And they used to call him Mr. Giussoni when we went to events, and we'd quickly, we'd laugh about it and correct it. But I think it's more normal now, especially, there's a lot of people in partnerships now where they're not married, but they are in life partnerships. So the whole thing with the name thing, I think is has gotten a little bit more lax, but I can understand, since that was your
Yeah.
husband's,
So
your ex-husband's name, why that could hold a
right.
little
And
tension.
it was also a branding. We had a lot to say
Yeah.
about the brand, and and there's a lot of people whose companies are named after the leader. I mean, that's like, that's
Yeah.
not, that shouldn't be a problem. But it was that was, I mean, that's what was the one sticky point that still comes up once in a while. So when we got married, I changed my name to Leslie Laredo Leibowitz. Leibowitz is his last name, but I didn't
You still have
hyphenate it.
you still have the alliteration there going
Yes,
on. LLL.
right. I was L. My good friends
Now
called me
you're
L
triple L,
squared.
triple
Right.
L.
I
Although
was
that's
L
a pretty long
squared.
name, Leslie,
Yeah,
I
it
will
is. So
say.
I don't use that. That's on my, that's on my passport and my driver's license.
Yeah.
So, but it was funny because it was the county clerk when I got married in Massachusetts, that said, if you don't hyphenate, change your Laredo to your maiden name, you can sign everything Leslie Laredo legally, which I had been doing.
Oh,
Because
right.
it was
Yeah.
technically my name. I didn't have to
Yeah.
put my last name. So I actually changed my name and made that my my middle name to so I was still known and use that all the time. So that's actually
Yeah.
advice I give people who are going to get married and change their name. Just make your previous name your middle name, and you're legal to use it.
That's a nice little trick. I like that. Let's go back to this boundary discussion that you actually started. How difficult is it not to talk business 24? Well, first of all, physical space. Are you in the same office?
Well, now we're never have been, and we always
Okay.
made sure we had separate rooms. He has a
Good.
big, deep voice. He was a radio broadcaster, newscaster for a while, so he has a radio voice. And
Okay. So separate
separate
offices
rooms.
if you
But
can.
even when we were in separate when we worked from home, we had separate bedrooms as offices. We had an actual office space with doors closed and all that, but I could still hear him. So when we moved up here, one of the reasons we moved up to, we're now 5 years in West Palm Beach, is there was a separate building behind the house, which was a 4-car garage. We built out to a studio to do our training recordings, and we put his office there. So he is in a separate building from me. It's wonderful.
Good. So you have to walk over.
I have to actually walk across the little pathway to get there to see him, which is fine. So
that's a good separation there. What about, talking about business 24/7? When you're running your own business, and I know this for a fact, it's like, you're not really on a 9 to 5 schedule. It's constantly going, you're constantly doing things off hours because you love what you do and you have the passion for it. Like, how do you not talk about it 24/7 with your partner? That must be hard.
It was harder. It's not as hard now. It was hard in the beginning, and especially starting out. I mean, there was so much growth and so much excitement, and so much I mean, having my name on the door kind of thing. I remember the first time I was at.
You put your name on the door. You put your name
at the building, the building, at the office, and the company name on the door. And seeing that, at Comdex having a booth with, the company there. I mean, we did, and I was like, oh my gosh.
So exciting.
It was exciting. And so in the early days, it was hard. In fact, we actually told our kids that if we were talking about work at the dinner table, they had the right to interrupt and stop and go, hey, you're breaking the rule, time out. So we trained our kids to help keep us.
So is it just the dinner table? No business talk, or any other time? What other time? Weekends? Or when you're with your kids?
As you know, 24 business is, when you have your own business, it's hard not to be 24/7. It's hard not to say, I won't talk on weekends. I never made that the rule. We tried to mostly when we were around the kids, or if we were like on a date night kind of thing, we went out together. We tried very hard. And we socialize a lot with people outside the industry. So we don't end up talking business all the time with our friends, because most of them are not in the industry.
Right. And did he bring children into the marriage, or you guys had children?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we didn't have children together. We both had kids coming in.
So you had one, he had
2.
He had two. Wow. So all of a sudden you had three. You have kind of a funny story you told me about something your son said
Yes,
when he
yes.
was, I don't know, a teenager.
No, I
Can
think
you,
he
you want
was.
to share that?
Yes. Oh gosh, I still laugh. I laugh heartily when I remember this story. We were in the car and talking about our clients, and one of our clients was Dick's Sporting Goods. Another one was Cox Media. So we were talking about the training we were doing for Dick's and Sporting Goods and Cox Media. My son bursts out from the back. He goes, "You're doing business with Dick's and Cox?" And I'm like, and we
And
all just,
especially at that age, like he's
right.
just like coming of,
Yeah, he was. I don't even think it was. I don't think he was 13 yet, because I'm pretty sure. Yeah, we weren't even, because he got, it was before. Yeah, it was before he was 13. I remember that. And we just, I mean, literally, I was had to pull off the side of the road because we were dying laughing. It was hysterical. And then later on, my husband said, "Good thing we didn't tell him we were doing business with David Pecker from American Media." You know. But it was, yeah, so funny that the kids pick, I mean, they listen to what you say. That to me was the
Yeah.
big, they're listening, they hear what you're saying. And I
Oh,
think that's
yeah.
important, that you can't assume just because they're on their phone or looking down or doing something, they're tuned in.
Oh,
And that
kids
was,
can multitask a lot better than we can, because
yeah.
they grew up with all these devices and a lot of stimuli going on at the same time. And for anybody that's working at home that has kids, they probably know this already. You have to be really careful on those Zoom calls on what you say, because if there's a kid in the room, they're going to repeat you if they're young and they don't know any better, or they're going to, make some conclusions that you might not want them to make, like
Yeah.
Dixon Cox,
Right. Or like, "Oh, mom's talking to this guy like all the time." Like, no,
Yes,
it's like,
yes.
no, it's my
Or mom looks like she's flirting with
right.
this guy. Wow,
Right.
this guy really likes mom.
Yeah.
What's going
Yeah.
on?
Yeah.
Well, speaking of flirting, like what about romance? How do you flip the switch into romance? Because it's
Oh,
difficult too, like
yes.
when you are working all the time, like how you mentioned, I think I heard date night or something like that. So
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
do you do to keep the romance
Well,
going? Because you're married, what, 25 years? I'm married a
20,
long time too.
yeah,
It's
20
really
years.
difficult to kind of keep that
Yeah.
excitement going all the time. Whereas work, is an ebb and flow. There's ups and downs, there's exciting things that come in, there's something, it's sort of like any type of relationships, ups and downs. So what do you do for romance?
Well, I think you have to carve out that time. I mean,
Yeah.
especially, when
Put
you
it
have
on
your
the
own
calendar,
business.
right? Put it on the
Yeah, it's
calendar.
like, and like
Yeah.
tonight after this, we're driving down to Fort Lauderdale to a concert, to see, to the
Oh.
Broward Performing Arts Center, see a friend of ours who's playing down there for the Jazz Society. So
Mhm.
we do, I mean, people think we're crazy in terms of how much we go out, but that's how it forces us. We go to a lot of love live music. So we go out wherever we can to
Yeah.
see concerts, to go to plays, to
Without the kids, right?
right. Yeah. And
Yeah.
even,
Yeah.
when the kids are all, gone, we're empty nesters. So, but even before, we would make sure
Mm.
we'd go out a lot just to get away and make it, have dinner and something fun. And also
Yeah.
dressing up. I mean, we would like make this real special, put on a
Yeah.
nice, look good, dress up, and, and it's not, just hanging. No, there's sometimes when we go to when we lived in Fort Lauderdale, we had a boat and we go to the marina, you're going to
Yeah.
hanging out in your
Yeah.
bathing suit and, flip-flops. That was different. But drinking a lot of margaritas took care of not worrying about things also.
Okay, so alcohol
So
helps.
alcohol did help. Yes, alcohol helped a little bit on that. But it was also, I think, we were both recognized what we were
Mm.
doing. And I think we were very upfront about, we can't be 24/7 work. We won't be
Yeah.
happy.
I also
And
think, for the two of you, it was like your second time around, right? You did the rodeo before. You were both married
both of
before.
us,
You had
yes,
kids.
yeah.
You brought kids into a relationship. So you really, from day one, regardless of whether you had the business together or not, from day one, you had to figure out how to nurture that relationship, right? With the kids and aside from the kids, right?
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
this was all going on, think about 20 years ago when, there weren't a lot of, people doing what we did. I didn't know anybody. I didn't have anybody who looked like me, did what I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm actually sure I knew one couple that had done it, but I mean,
Yeah.
it was looked at as more odd than appreciated or
Well,
like
in the business
celebrate it.
world, yeah,
Yeah.
it was more like, in that mom and pop retail kind of world that, that seemed more
Yeah.
normal for that, but
Yeah.
not in the business world. Let's get to some
And by
before
the
we
way, I just want to
go ahead.
comment on that.
Yeah.
That's one thing was, but I think now that you say it, like all of a sudden a light bulb went off. My husband's parents had owned restaurants and owned a retail
Oh,
store, and they worked together. So I think he came to this having
yeah.
experience. I didn't have that with my family, but I think he was much closer to understanding that because he lived that.
Yeah,
So
he had an example. He had a role model.
yeah.
And were are they still married?
Well, they've
Oh,
passed
they both
away.
passed. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's look at some real specific tips in case we do have some listeners who really are interested in partnering up with their partner, in a business relationship. What are, I don't know, the top three, top five, whatever you feel, tips for success if you're
Yeah.
going to do a business partnership? And I will say that these are probably going to be tips that are going to be with any business partnership as well. But let's
But
go over
yes,
some of
and
those.
but more deeper with I definitely know your role,
Yeah.
and everybody they know what they do, just like in a company, like you have your
Yeah.
job, you do
Define the
it,
roles. Yeah,
right.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And be open to when you get the advice from your partner. It's like I sometimes will say, like, if things will be said, and if we were in a business environment, you would have said it differently to me. So we have to be careful of the tone, and that's always
Yes.
part of it, because
Yes. Yes.
sometimes what happened in the morning personally can't become what happens during the day at work, or vice versa. If something bad happened during the day at work, you can't let that bleed into your evening
Right.
daytime.
Right.
And
Right.
so
Right.
you have
Right.
to have, it's not just what you say, it's your tone and
Hmm.
your and what so make
I think
sure
that's
there's
true in anything in life, in any relationship. How you say it is always much important than
yeah.
exactly what you say, because there is a tone, and with that tone comes, an
But
energy,
it's even
right?
it's
Yeah.
when you're
Yeah.
together 24, so literally in the same physical building
Yeah.
24/7,
Yeah.
and you're going from your step out of my bed, the third bedroom of my house, to my kitchen, which is right over there. You don't have time to, it's like you don't get the car and decompress, you get home, okay, you got over it. You're literally walking 3 feet to another room, bump into your spouse, your business partner, and all of a sudden
Yeah.
that mental energy and all that. So you have to give your time to decompress and be,
Hmm.
and have everybody have their job to do, and be okay with the negotiation of how it gets done, and make sure that the tone is correct at that time, and don't let that tone go either way, right? So that's, to me, very important. That might be a little different than if you
Hmm.
were working outside, with someone else. The Very important, the keeping, there's so many people I know who are entrepreneurs, amazing entrepreneurs, built incredible businesses, who talk about
Hmm.
the 24/7ness of it. And then it's times two. We actually joke, when we, on our wedding anniversary, when we just had 20, we said we've been married for 40 years, not 20, because we're together all the time. It
Those are
seems like
business
40,
years. Yeah.
right?
Business
Because we're
years.
together 24/7. So I
And
think
isn't
that
that something to be really grateful for too, to show gratitude for that partnership coming together in two ways, right?
yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
actually, I'll add that to my list, is show the gratitude. I mean,
Yes.
say it and show it. And I, for a long time I didn't, and it was in the last few years I really started to say things. I really appreciate you do that so well. And because we take for granted, like, I know he knows that, I know that, but I never
Yeah.
was saying it, and now I say it, and I think that has helped a lot, especially during
Which
these
really, like,
times
if you were
of
in a
COVID.
corporate environment and you weren't, personal partners, you would be saying those things and you would be supporting each other in that way. But
Yeah.
you're right. Once you have the personal relationship, you kind of take it for granted, right?
Yeah, don't,
Yeah.
and that's the thing,
Yeah.
don't take anything for granted.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
so important. And
Yeah.
then, the piece, the most important, I think, is really making sure you leave, and don't make it 20. I was trying to say, don't make it 24/7. It's
Yes.
easy to do. I did it for a long time. I mean,
Yeah.
I know I did, and things suffered because of it. So I would say to anybody, make sure, entrepreneurs especially, you have to have a life. You have to give your spouse the time, and respect that time as your personal time, that is work time, and make it special.
Yeah.
however you do it,
That's
and
so well said. And I also think too, and this is something for any kind of relationship, whether it's a personal relationship, business relationship, is listening skills. Let's just talk
oh,
about that before we wrap up, because I think that's so important, to have good listening skills. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, and how that works in your relationship?
yes.
Yeah.
I was not, I thought I was great at everything. I just, I actually 2 years ago, I got asked to teach listening. It's one of our skills, one of the skills we teach now. We
Yes.
listening, questioning. And when I
Yes.
started to do research on it, I learned I was a terrible listener. And in
Because
just
you're a
saying,
good salesperson, but yeah,
well,
but you do have
salespeople,
to be a
yeah.
good listener to be a good salesperson too.
Oh,
But
it's
I agree. I agree. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and just saying the words, I heard you, or this is what I heard you say, or so I
Yeah.
started reframing so people knew that I was listening, and or my husband knew I was listening. Totally made a huge difference. Because it was like the
Yeah.
tensions went away, or they got, when there was lots of
Right. Right.
very
Right.
tough discussions. It was okay. So what I'm hearing you say is, this is how you see whatever, I would
Repeating
refrain.
back.
I would
I always
refrain.
feel too that the one thing that because I'm sort of like you, I think we have a similar personality where you're like, go, 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 go. And we want to, talk, 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 smooth it over really fast. And the thing that I make a mistake at, in terms of listening, is I don't take that pregnant pause, right? After someone says something, and I'll just right away jump in with my opinion or whatever it is, instead of like, okay, take the pause, remember, think about what they said. And like you said, it's great to say, so what you're saying is X, without any judgment. And here's where the tone comes in, right?
Right, right,
Because you can tone that and sound really judgmental
right.
without any judgment, and say, hey, let's and maybe you get to the point where you said earlier, agree to disagree, right?
Yeah.
Which is okay,
No,
as long as you don't
also,
take that into your whole day,
right,
right?
right. And you
Yeah.
can also say something like, well, I'm confused. Help me get I mean, so I've learned,
Yeah.
or help me
Yeah.
understand like how you got to that place. Like,
Yes,
tell me
yes,
how you
yes.
got there. I mean, so which gives someone a chance to restate what they're saying. Because sometimes people say things and don't realize that they're saying it the wrong way. Because, well,
I didn't
they'll
mean it
say
that
like,
way. They'll
right,
say,
I didn't
I
mean it
didn't
that
mean
way,
it that
right?
way. What I should have
Or
said was this, or I didn't
exactly.
use that word correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I found
Exactly.
myself saying that, because, oh, I should have said that. I said that I didn't mean to say it that way. What I meant to say. And it
Yeah.
just, so that you're
Yeah.
right. Number one.
Yeah.
And it unfortunately, I wish I had that skill a lot earlier, especially raising children.
Oh,
Um,
right, right,
right.
right, right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I've become a big fan
Yeah.
of, and believe that it's a hard to teach um
Mm.
skill, but it's so important.
Because some people are naturally better at it than others. But look, you can't come out of the womb and be perfect, right? But you and your husband are such powerhouses. And since this show is called Self Power Now, I have one last question for you. What do you do daily to enhance and get into and feel powerful, the powerful woman that you are? Do you have anything that you do? Do you meditate or be in nature? What is it?
Oh, I lots of things I want to do, but I do try to make my passions for gardening, my passion for cooking. I just make sure that I give myself time and don't think that I'm like this weekend. I didn't touch email at all this past weekend. I didn't go
Mm.
out. I didn't have my computer at all. I spent almost the entire weekend outside gardening, which I hadn't done in a while. And I spent some time cooking. I was like, just felt good. I just like I treat myself to my other passions outside of work. And
Right,
I don't
right.
ever question that. So I don't do, I've thought about doing, I've tried meditation, I've tried some other things,
Yeah,
but
that's okay.
I'm
You have to find what works for you,
yeah,
right?
I
You
like
have to,
I like things with my I'm very creative with my hands, like was younger, I did a lot of knitting, crocheting, macrame, and sewing.
Well, the gardening
and
is like
and
that.
Gardening
The
is my
cooking is
hand,
like that. So something creative. I think creativity, we all have it in us, even though people say they're not creative, but we all have some creativity in us.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever that is, could be writing a poem or, making, for me, I love cooking too. I love cooking and making it look creative, or painting.
Yeah.
The painting behind me was one of my paintings.
Oh, and behind me on the wall, let's
really
see, behind me, those up on the wall, there's 3 paintings I did myself.
Oh, see that? Well, we find we have even more in
know,
common,
what's
more in common. Well, thank you, Leslie. This was so informative and so fun. Listeners, if you'd like to connect with Leslie or listen to more episodes, you can find all of that on selfpowernow.com/podcast. I wish you all a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day. Come back and join us next time. Thanks for listening to Self Power Now. If you enjoyed today's show, please share it with others, follow it on your favorite podcast platform, and join our community on selfpowernow.com and receive 3 free happiness gifts. And while you're there, if you're looking for more ways to be happy, healthy, peaceful, and loved, check out my books and new online courses. Until next time, this is Debbie Jasoni wishing you self-power now.